Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. September has been kind of a slow reading month for me, which is why I kind of got quiet there on YouTube and didn't really upload anything because I had some ideas, but I don't know. It's been a couple weeks and I like to try to upload weekly just because it makes me feel good and it helps keep me active, but sometimes it's hard because you don't have a whole lot to talk about and you have ideas and then you talk yourself out of them and it's whatever. It's been kind of a slow reading month, but that's really okay. That just happens. But I have read 2 books so far this month that I did want to talk about individually, and basically because they were pretty good. And so yeah, I just want to show you what I've read so far in the month of September, which hasn't been much, but what it has been good. So the first one I'm going to show you is The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Colbert, and this is a nonfiction book. I got this at the library, and I have to actually return it tomorrow, which is kind of what prompted me to finally make this video. But again, this is a nonfiction book, and where to start with it? I guess I'll tell you a little bit about what it's about. This whole book is about different times in history and then kind of bounces back to our future, like examining extinctions and what's causing the different extinctions throughout history. And a lot of it focuses on human impact, but also what extinction looked like before humans even existed and how long it took usually for species to become extinct versus now, which now, you know, if a animal becomes extinct, say, within a few thousand years, that's actually considered really, really fast compared to how the world used to be before us, before Homo sapiens. And then, so it talks about how there were 5 major extinctions, and then the title of the book, The Sixth Extinction, is basically saying that we're now in the 6th extinction. That's what's going on right now, which was sort of interesting and a little disturbing. Even though I enjoyed it a lot, it did get a little dry for me. Like, it's very heavy science. For me, it was pretty heavy science, like, which is really interesting, but sometimes it's easier to absorb that through listening or watching than reading, because it was very easy to get distracted while reading this book. So I actually listened to a lot of it on audio, and then for a lot of it I would actually read along with the audio, and that really helped me absorb because I wanted to read this book and I did find it interesting. It was just hard. It's one of those that even though it's interesting, it's hard to sit there. For me, it was hard to sit there and concentrate on it, I guess. But yeah, the information in here was really valuable. What struck me most about this book is it's amazing how much I don't know. And, you know, I feel like for a lot of people, if they read this book, they would find out so many things they didn't know before. For example, dandelions are not native to North America. I didn't know that. Maybe that's old news, but I didn't know that. So, you know, just learning and growing through reading stuff like this is really valuable. Now, one interesting thing that I pulled from this book that I want to make sure and mention too is how I guess we as people are, I don't know, we are causing so much damage, but I like how the book doesn't really guilt trip you. That's just the way that it is. That's the way that we've evolved. We are inherently damaging. And, you know, we do need to take responsibility for it, but then on another side of that is, I guess almost we can't help it. And that's not to just say do whatever you want or be, you know, destructive and not care, you know, don't recycle, kill all the things. You know, it's not saying that. I like how it kind of balanced between that, how damaging we are and how much of it we can prevent, but how much of it I guess we can't to a certain extent because of the way we are made. One interesting line in this book that really stuck out to me was that a person sitting in their living room reading a book is just as dangerous to the world as a poacher out there poaching endangered animals. So I thought that was a really interesting take on it, and to an extent, I mean, I agree. I mean, that's the way we've evolved. You know, we've evolved to want more, to explore. She mentions in this book, you know, what other species, there hasn't been any other species on the planet besides us that's even tried to go beyond our boundary. You know, most animals and plants are constrained by a boundary, which is the sea. It's water. And why did we as human beings even try to go out into what looked like endless water to us? What was the point, you know? It was basically suicide probably for the majority of those first trips, and homemade and hand-carved boat crafts, you know? What compelled us to keep doing that? And part of that is just our nature, and that's one part of our nature that makes us destructive without meaning to be. You know, because we aren't confined. We can just keep going. We don't know how to stop keep going. We can't, you know, we can't hold ourselves back almost. So I feel like maybe I'm butchering this. A lot of deep thoughts coming from this book, and I do recommend it if you're interested in climate change or the way the world is changing and history. All of that is wrapped up into this good nonfiction book, which I'm glad I read. I feel smarter for having read it. I'll just leave it that way. I feel smarter. The next book that I'm going to show you is The Tiger by John Valiant, and this says a true story of vengeance and survival. And if anyone's ever watched my videos before, you know that I kind of work up to my favorite books, and since I only have two, you can probably guess that out of the two, this was the favorite. Both of them were great, but this is definitely the favorite. This is another nonfiction book that I picked up at the library. And what this was about was basically a man-eating tiger in Far East Russia. And kind of how he, it's more than that, obviously, but the story kind of follows along with this man-eating tiger and how he seems to deliberately be targeting certain people and hunting them down for no other reason than vengeance. Which I totally pulled me in when I read that description on the cover. Anything that points to maybe a little bit more intelligence than we think animals are capable of, because vengeance is an abstract thing. Throughout most of the animal kingdom, you know, vengeance is not a theme. There's no vengeance hunting or killing. There's just life and death and killing for obvious reasons, like living. But wrapped up within that story is so much Russian history and poaching and a little bit of mythology, and I don't know, it was just so much better than I ever imagined it could be. I was so totally into this book. And what I really appreciated about it is it wasn't just a totally sympathetic book to the tiger. The author really helped you understand where the people, their mindset comes from, where they live out in Far East Russia, where it's just mind-blowingly cold and rural, and yeah, it's like stepping back in time, basically. There's a lot of poaching that gets talked about in this book, and I like how when people first hear poaching, I think most of us, our reaction is, you know, oh, bad. Poaching equals bad. bad person, you know, and there's no really gray or middle ground. And I really liked how John Valiant explored that and really helped us get to know the people who are considered poachers in this area of the world, but how it's just, I mean, it's a need for them. You really can't blame the people in this book, and you can't blame the tiger. It's just two worlds that clashed in such a way that some lives had to end, some lives ended. And that's, I mean, to wrap it up, that's basically nature, whether we like it or not. So I really appreciate books like this that really that don't forget the people, you know, and kind of have you straddling sympathy and empathy for both. One thing I wanted to mention about this is, even though it's nonfiction, I really like how it brought a mystical element to tigers and their intelligence. I read a review on Goodreads that said, after reading this, you will never look at your house cat the same. And that's true. That's so true. Wow. I had no idea that tigers were so incredibly intelligent. I mean, even today, as it mentions in this book, wildlife biologists are continually stumped by some of the things that tigers seem to be able to process and do, and how they almost seem to be capable of abstract thought, which is huge, like a huge marker for intelligence, like kind you wouldn't expect, I guess. So yeah, both those books I enjoyed immensely for my apparently nonfiction start to September. So yeah, I definitely recommend you read them if you haven't, especially The Tiger. Read it now so you can talk to me about it. But yeah, let me know if you have read either of these books, or if they sound interesting to you, and your thoughts on them. Excuse me, and any recommendations along those lines, especially ones like The Tiger, which I just end up enjoying it way more than I thought I would, and I love when that happens. But I will talk to you all again very soon, and thanks for watching.